I'm going to read this book to you guys. It's called Krazy White Girl. The author is Mary A. Monroe. So hopefully you will get your bedtime story so that you can sleep. And I will be doing this consistently until this book is finished. I will also be reading other books. So, hey, I hope you enjoy this. Again, the book is called Krazy White Girl by Mary A. Monroe. I'm sure you can order it. They call me Krazy White Girl. Well, maybe they're right because maybe I am crazy. The things I've done in my life and the things that have been done to me in my life would make anyone crazy, right? Well, you can decide for yourself because I'm going to write it all down. After all, I have a long 4-hour flight from New York to South Florida to testify at the trial of my mom's boyfriend, Ricardo, who has been charged with beating me with a baseball bat last December 27. Maybe this trial will be the closure I need to end this horrible chapter of my life forever. I am traveling with my Aunt Lori, who is about the closest thing I've ever had to a real mother. I've lived with her ever since I awoke from my deep coma after the beating. You would think that beating would have been the lowest point of my miserable 14 years of life. But no, unfortunately, things get even worse. Sometimes my life is like an ongoing nightmare. Will I ever wake up from it and realize my dreams? A favorite teacher of mine from last semester, Mr. Martin, who totally changed the lives of all the students in my 8th grade dropout prevention class at Monty Middle School in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, always said, "The power of the pen is mightier than the sword, and the truth will set you free." Well, I need to be set free, so I'll do what he always said. I'll continue to write it down in my journal. After all, didn't my journal from my 8th grade class provide the police the proof to lock up my mom's demented boyfriend, Ricardo? Let's see. Where did it all begin? I guess my days of becoming a crazy white girl began last September during my 8th grade year at Monty Middle School. My story is entitled The So-Called Life of a Crazy White Girl by Nicole Adams. Chapter 2. She's moving. Oh my God, thank you God she's moving. I heard these words but couldn't see anything. Everything was blacked out. After a few moments, a few blurry images came to me. I saw my Aunt Lori, not yet knowing that she had flown in from her home in New York City to stay with me every night since a brutal beating by Ricardo, my mom's live-in boyfriend. I looked around and felt very disoriented. Where was I? Who were all these people? Suddenly, I felt wet kisses on my face. "You're okay, honey? You're going to be okay." "Aunt Lori, what are you doing here? Where am I?" I struggled to get up out of bed where I felt trapped by wires and medical apparatus on my face and hands. "Now just relax, Nicole. You've been in a coma for 3 days, but thank God you're okay now," said Aunt Lori. Bits and pieces came back to me. Mr. Martin, Marvin, McDonald, Quenisha, and all my classmates at Monty Middle School. What day was it? Weren't we on Christmas vacation? It started to come back now. "Mom, Ricardo," I shivered uncontrollably, fear gripping me. "Where's my mom? Is Ricardo here?" I asked, filled with panic. No, Nicole comforted Aunt Lori. "Ricardo is in jail. He can't hurt you." "And Mom?" "She's at home, honey. You know she has health problems and She doesn't like hospitals. But Johnny's here. Hey girl, what's up? I recognized the voice of my cousin Johnny, Aunt Lori's son, who was a year older than me. He was about the closest thing I had to a brother. We were alike in so many ways, which was really strange because my mom and Aunt Lori were as different as two sisters could ever be. My mom Julie is short, about 5'2" and fat, about 210 pounds. She's so thick that when I had parent conferences at the school, the assistant principal had to come and pick her up in the minibus and drive her to school because she could no longer fit behind the wheel of our broken down Toyota. Her medium brown hair is usually a tangled mess. She pulls up in a twisted ponytail with a huge clip from the dollar store. Now, Aunt Lori looks totally different. She's built more like me. She's 5'5" and is about a size 8 to 10 due to taking fitness classes at the gym. She has pretty medium length hair, blonde hair with caramel streaks, which she wears loosely around her shoulders. She looked at me with concern. What happened to me, Aunt Lori? You don't remember, honey? Oh, don't you worry now. No, what happened? Why was I in a coma? And then it came back. I remember how my life always turned into scum, trash. I had been enjoying my year in 8th grade at Monty Middle School while I was a student in Mr. Martin's dropout prevention class. I had started to feel happy. If I had actually begun to show my true face to some classmates, I was beginning to like and trust Marvin McDonald, Marcus, Quenisha, Daniel, Lewis, Roberto, Jesus, Spaz, Run, Brittany, Mike, and Belgiana. We had a common bond because we were the 12 Misfits, students that no other teacher wanted to teach until Mr. Martin came into our lives. I was perhaps the biggest misfit there because I was deeply in the gothic look. Every day I carefully put a very light foundation cream over my entire face and applied a deep wine-colored, almost black lipstick to my lips and dark eyeliner to my eyes. I wore practically the same thing to school every day, black jeans and a black t-shirt with skulls on it. And my favorite thing I used to carry was a doll's head, which I decorated with safety pins, white makeup, and bright wine-colored lips. No one at Monty Middle School liked me, and I heard them whisper things like, she's into voodoo, weird, stay away from her. That was fine with me. I was a loner. I didn't want anyone too close to see the real me, the life I endured at home with my mom and her newest diversion, Ricardo. I could stand the fights with my mom, the swearing, the name calling, even the slaps across my face because she always made up with me. And she said she was sorry. But when she announced to me one day that Ricardo was moving in with us, I was crushed. Ricardo was 42 and had come over to Florida on a boat from Cuba carrying criminals that were set free from jail. He was like no other person from Cuba that I had ever known. All the people I had known from Cuba were nice, kind, and friendly, but Ricardo was different. He had a hoarse voice and a strong accent, and he constantly picked on me. He said things like, hey, devil child, you spook me, man. You're not normal. I pleaded with my mom to make him move out, and she would just say, he's a diversion, child. He's a diversion from my boring life. He makes me laugh, and he stays. As an old saying goes, if you don't like it, you can lump it. My mom had all sorts of weird sayings. I couldn't believe a mother could choose a man over her own child. I wanted to run away, but I didn't know where to go. I had no control over my life and felt so lost and alone. It was then that I started cutting. If you don't know what cutting is, let me tell you. You cut your skin in little slash marks, and the pain of the cuts take away the pain you're feeling. Now you ask, how does a person start something like that? For me, it started innocently enough. I was changing the safety pins in my doll's head, and I accidentally pierced my own skin. Instead of liking the feeling of pain, I felt a sense of euphoria. I know it sounds weird, but it made me feel calm because my own negative thoughts were temporarily gone as I focused on the physical pain in my finger. I jabbed my finger again with the pin and got a similar rush. Then I scratched the inside of my arm several times with a drop of blood pooled on my skin. At school, I went to the library where I logged in to the search engine, Google, and looked up cutting. I read about it, but instead of turning me off, it made sense to me. It was my way of dealing with mom, Ricardo, and things I couldn't control about my life. But then it got worse at home. Over Christmas vacation, my mom noticed the cut marks on my arm. "What the hell is this?" she screamed at me, and I felt the familiar crack of her hand across my face. This time Ricardo decided to put in his 2 cents. "You loco girl. Loco in the head," he rasped, while pointing his finger to his head. "No man want you. You loco. Are you crazy, Nicole? I seen this on Oprah. You one of those crazy girls who cuts your own self, are you, huh?" Mom screamed at me. I exploded and shouted curse words at my mother. Ricardo stepped in front of me and I pushed him. I was like a wildcat, crazy. They call me crazy and they're the craziest two people I've ever known. My mom socked me hard on my arm. We ended up getting into a physical fight and my hands went around her throat. "I hate you," I screamed. And then whack! I later found out that Ricardo had hit me across my head with a 4-foot long wooden baseball bat. My flashback was brought back to my present situation in the hospital room when Johnny interrupted my thoughts. "Nicole, you're moving to New York with us. Now that you're better, you don't have to go back to your mother. You'll be going to my school, Thomas Edison Junior High School in New York City, home of the best pizza and hot dogs you ever eaten." New York? I thought to myself. I've lived in Florida my whole life. What would New York bring or take out of my life? How would I like moving to New York and leaving everything that was near and dear to me? I soon found out. The next day, after successfully passing a battery of tests, the hospital released me in the custody of my Aunt Lori. You see, after Ricardo hit me on the head with that bat, my mom called 911. I was passed out cold. Then Child Protective Services investigated and saw heel bruises on my arms and red slap marks on my face. Ricardo was charged with child abuse and my mother was being investigated for abuse and neglect. Aunt Lori volunteered to take temporary custody of me. It was all a whirl. After I was discharged from the hospital, Aunt Lori drove me to the tiny apartment where my mom lives and helped me pack up clothes to take to the New York. She was shocked when she saw my meager collection of clothes. I placed 2 pair of black jeans, 2 pair of black t-shirts, in the extra suitcase she had brought. "Don't you have any skirts or dresses? How about a jacket, honey?" "It's hot in Florida, Aunt Lori. I don't need one." This was a half-truth. Yes, it was hot in Florida, but we do get some cold days in December and January. When I asked my mom for the money for a jacket, she gave me a worn base sweater to wear with little clumpy balls of knit on it. No way would I ever wear that. Mom had said you don't need no new jacket. I ain't got that kind of money. My disability check barely pays the rent and the food I put on the table. So I went without. It was worse in the morning when I had to wait in the dark to board school bus at 7:30 a.m., but it almost always warmed up by noon. And Lori simply shook her head from side to side and said, "That's fine, Nicole. We'll get you some new clothes when you get to New York." Mom didn't say much to Aunt Lori or me while we were packing. When I went to kiss her goodbye, she said to me, "You tried to kill me, girl. You tried to strangle me like Ricardo said, you loco, you crazy, and now my Ricardo is in jail." She was still muttering to herself when Aunt Lori, Johnny, and I left the apartment. I was so embarrassed, especially in front of Johnny and Lori. She blames me for what happened. Don't listen to her, Johnny said. It wasn't your fault. That Ricardo is crazy. He belongs in jail. Aunt Lori joined in. My sister always picked up the wrong kind of guys, and Ricardo was no different. She put him before you. That was wrong, Nicole. Just try to forget the past. Focus on your future with us in New York. Soon I was on the airplane in New York. We were first to board because Aunt Lori had some medical papers from the hospital saying that I was recovering from a coma and a head injury. I was taking medicine to control seizures, which are sometimes a post-operative problem after head injury. We arrived at Aunt Lori's home, which was the upstairs apartment of a two-flat. Now, being from Florida, I had never seen or been in a two-flat, which is basically two apartments in one building, connected by a narrow stairway, and Aunt Lori's apartment was clean and brightly decorated. There were 3 small bedrooms, so I put my things into the vacant bedroom, which had been used for Johnny's drum set, Aunt Lori's desk and computer and sewing machine and ironing board. We're going to get this stuff out of here, Nicole, and make it into your bedroom, Aunt Lori explained. We rushed to the hospital and didn't have time to fix it up yet. Oh, no problem. This will be fine. I don't want to put you in any trouble, I offered weakly. I wasn't used to being the center of attention. No trouble at all, Aunt Lori said cheerily. I always wanted more children, but couldn't after Johnny. Now it'll be just like I have a daughter and Johnny has a sister. The living room had a good-sized, large-screen TV, DVD player, and a comfortable couch and a love seat. Aunt Lori's kitchen was decorated with apples. She had apples everywhere. Apple tablecloth, apple placemats, apple decoration. One of the biggest changes I've noticed, though, was the noise around us. In Florida, it was mostly quiet in my neighborhood around my apartment, except for the outbursts by Mom and Ricardo. But Aunt Lori's apartment was surrounded by 24-hour shops with neon lights, and you could hear the sounds of a bustling city. You could hear the chords of guitar, drums, and traffic. It was totally different feel than the slow-paced tempo of Florida. The biggest change I felt was the cold. It was January 8th, and the winds had ripped through the jacket Aunt Lori had bought me from the local fashion store in Florida. Don't worry, honey, I'll buy you a better jacket. Now that we're in New York, you'll need it. Aunt Lori gave me a few days to adjust to New York. I ate Coney Island hot dog, a crispy bagel with cream cheese, and a steaming bowl of homemade soup. Aunt Lori told me the food of New York defined the city just as much as anything else. She even took me to see the Statue of Liberty and took me clothes shopping where I bought more clothes than I ever had. But nothing could prepare me for my first day at Thomas Edison Junior High School for grades 7 to 9. Possibly the worst school I'd ever seen. It all started when Aunt Laura woke me up to get ready. I had a horrible, queasy feeling in my stomach. Then when I was brushing my hair, Johnny poked his head in and said, just to let you know, watch out for this girl, Ashley Williams. She's always trying to make trouble. She could make your junior high school years hell. You'll know her when you see her. She's tall, blonde, and beautiful, but don't let her outer appearance fool you. What was I in for? I was scared and somewhat sad. Sure, my other life was crazy, but it was a crazy I knew. I had no clue what faced me here in New York. People can sense an outsider. And at Thomas Edison Junior High School, you don't want to be an outsider. I found that out soon enough. You better have some friends who have your back. I didn't have any friends at my new school. Aunt Lori drove me and Johnny to school the first day after winter break. It was bitter cold in the low 20s, and for a born and raised Florida girl like myself, it was bone chilling. I mean, I couldn't stop myself from shivering, and even though Aunt Lori had bought me a fur-lined parka jacket, mittens, hat, and scarf. As soon as Aunt Lori drove off, I stuffed the mittens and hat into my pockets, where I was comforted by the touch of the cool, sharp edge of my razor blade. I brought along, just in case, well, Just in case if I needed to cut myself. It was like security blanket for me, just in case. There were little cliques all around me, and everyone seemed totally at ease and excited to see me. And everyone seemed totally at ease and excited to see their friends. Again, after the long break, Johnny had been right next to me, and I looked again, and he was gone. I felt dizzy. Everything seemed so surreal, like I was watching a scene on a video and I was looking in from the outside. I guess what I had next could be called a panic attack, and I just wanted to run away from it all, run away from my life. But there's no escaping your own life. I pushed through the doors of the girls' bathroom. There were about 5 bathroom stalls and shoved myself through one. Well, someone's sure in a hurry. She better watch who she shoving past, said the girl's voice with a Hispanic accent. Yeah, Lo, she needs to show some respect, said the girl with a high-pitched squeaky voice. There was a loud banging on my door. Yo, I don't know who you are or who you think you are, but this here is Lo and Blondie, and this here is our bathroom. You catch my drift? I sat on the toilet seat with all my clothes on. I smelled the familiar smell of cigarette smoke, and then one of the voices said, and you better show some respect, and then a giggle. I wanted to disappear. I wanted the safety of Monty Middle School, Mr. Martin's cheery classroom with Marvin and Marcus and the others. I wasn't ready for junior high school in New York or these two nutty New Yorker girls named Lo and Blondie. I reached in my pocket where I found what I consider an old friend and my only friend right now, the razor blade. I pushed up my jacket, shirt, and sleeves and made short, rapid slash marks on the inside of my arm. The pain was blissful. It transformed me away from this horrible place to a place I understood and recognized. Freaky man, there's blood dropping on the floor. I recognized the voice of the one called Lo. Hey, are you okay in there? I saw an eyeball look through the open space of the stall door. Issues, man. This girl has issues. A loud bell rang. I heard the door of the bathroom shut. I never felt so alone in my life. From Nichols' journal. Cold. Cold as the frigid air pierces my skin. Cold as their cruel taunts. Cold as my empty heart. Cold as the sharp silver blade. My comforter warms me, oozing hot blood. Ladies, we have a new member of our POWER group. Her name is Nicole Adams, and she is from Florida. Let all introduce ourselves and tell Nicole something about why you are a powerful, outrageous woman earning respect. Her name was Miss Parker, and her voice and energy seemed so much bigger than her P-type 5-foot frame. I was referred to her group for mentoring after I was discovered cutting and bleeding on my first day at Thomas Edison Junior High School. We know this one, a dark-haired Latina girl, said she has issues. Now, Lorraine, please don't refer to someone as this one. She's a young woman deserving respect. I don't respect the one who cuts on their own self. We saw it. An African American girl with short, dyed blonde, curly hair interjected. She was hiding in a toilet stall. There was blood everywhere and ew. She cried out in her high-pitched voice. It was freaky. Time out, Blondie, Miss Parker said in a voice that demanded attention. Remember what we discussed in our social contract. No put-downs. That ain't no put-down. It's the truth, I said in a clear voice. I cut myself because it makes me feel better. It helps me forget my miserable, messed up life. Would you like to share with us? Miss Parker asked in a kind voice. So for the next 20 minutes or so, I poured out the details of my so-called life. I told them about my DOP classroom in Florida and how my mom chose Ricardo over me, how Ricardo hit me with the bat, how I woke up out of a coma and came to New York to live with Johnny and my Aunt Lori where I don't know another soul. The 4 girls around me are listen without saying a word. There was Lorraine, a tough-looking, street-smart Latina, or Lo, as they call her. Chanira, or Blondie, nickname for her dyed blonde curly locks which looked strikingly in contrast to her cocoa-colored skin. Sharonda, almost 6 foot tall, beautiful African American girl, and Jennifer, a chubby or thick girl from Puerto Rico. After I said all I was going to say, there was a complete silence, and then Lo said in a clear voice with a ring of kindness, "Well, now we understand. That's all in the past, the present, and future. That's all we have now. Right, Miss Parker?" I was touched by her sincerity and accepted me. She continued, "And now you got us, the POWER girls, and we got your back because we're just as messed up as you." Lowe's voice rose to a high pitch, but that was before we got Miss Parker to open her eyes and make us see who we really are and who we are meant to become. Positive, outrageous women earning respect. Everyone rang with comments like, "That's right. Tell it, Lo. Sure enough." And for a brief moment, I felt like I belonged. It was wonderful, and I felt warm, comforting feelings flood my soul, but I couldn't stop myself from worrying if these girls would really be my friends or was it just something that we're saying now. I guess I have to see how it played out. Nicole, we here all have nicknames, you see? So if you want to be with us and start a new beginning, why don't we just call you Nikki? Lo asked me. Sure, I said. So on that day, I was no longer Nicole, but the new person named Nikki. POWER from Nikki's journal. P, powerful like ocean riptides tugging mercilessly. O, outrageous like purple hair and black lips. W, women just 14. Am I a woman yet? E, earning signifying worth and am I worth anything? R, respect, something lacking in my life. So I'll be back. I've read all the way to chapter 6. This book is quite short, but I'm on I'll be starting chapter 6 the next time we read. And I'm not going to do this at the end of every reading, me saying I'm starting chapter 6. I won't be doing that. However, I want you to know I will be beginning chapter 6 the next time I read. And I'll try to do this every day. Every day or every other day. And, and that's just me reading books because I love to read books and I would like to share. And one of my favorite authors is Mary A. Monroe. I also love Toni Morrison. I think she died in 2021. Anyhow, so all this extra right here, I won't be doing this, but I would like for you guys to cue in for the completion of this book. And this book, again, is called Krazy White Girl, and the author is Mary A. Monroe. Hope you're having a nice night. Sleep tight.